the president of DRC, in his independence speech, he said that there was no doubt that Rwanda was backing a rebellion on their territory. How would you respond to that?
I would respond to that by saying it's the opposite. It's the opposite in a sense that on record and with the facts, DRC is supporting FDLR, and unfortunately, with the knowledge of MONUSC, the UN force on the ground. And actually, that's how it happened that they were sharing our territory when it happened. There have been incidents happening since 2019, in November, when FDLR entered our territory in a place called Kinigi, and were fought off and defeated by our forces. They had come from DRC, and they were armed by DRC. Then there was a sharing 3 times, different times, with heavy weapons, killed people, destroyed the property, and we were discussing all of these matters with the DRC. And so that's what I can speak to. Otherwise, why would we be involved in DRC as such? But they have done everything to try and involve us in their problems. We have been resisting that, but I don't know for how long, if they continued doing what they have been doing, that we have been bringing to their attention. But of course, the other problem has been Congo in the past, maybe, I don't know, until recently. They've been behaving like spoiled children. They cause trouble, and then in the end, they start crying foul and shouting and saying somebody is doing something wrong to them. And actually, unfortunately, the world, in some respects, some parts of the world have responded by being on the side of DRC, even when they are the ones in the wrong. This was a very big issue in the past, and we always explained it, but it seems we are not being heard. So I think, but this time around, I think they did what they did blatantly with, they made a big mistake, which everybody was able to see, creating a war that had no good grounds. And then within the crisis of Congo have been there for a long time, but then they always want to explain it by referring to somebody else. It's like they have never accepted taking their problems as their own problems. They always want to say their problems are originating from somewhere else. And it seems the world had come to accept that, but I think maybe the way of seeing things is changing also across the world. I haven't seen that they have bought into the lies that the government has been airing on different occasions, even though we found this case where a UN force was actually supporting them. And by the way, they are supporting them against their own people. They are supporting the government of Congo and the government of Congo's forces against their own people. the M23 we are talking about are Congolese. But to explain it further and show how bad the whole thing is, when they are having problems with the M23, meaning the government forces, then they had to take it to the Kinyarwanda-speaking Congolese, meaning it's like you are the same people. So if you are fighting, then you shall go for your, I mean, I don't see how anybody can justify this. How anybody can justify that. But also it is proof that actually these Congolese, the M23, are associated with these other Congolese who are being persecuted. So it explains the point that what is happening there as an internal crisis touches persecution of a people of Congo. That's why you are fighting M23, and when you are not getting your way, then you take it to their families, to their kin and kith. It becomes ethnic persecution. But the fact of the matter, these are Congolese, they are not Rwandans. They are only of Rwandese heritage or culture, but they are Congolese by nationality. And how that happened, you can't ask me, because I was not there. I'm not responsible. Rwanda is not responsible for Kinyarwanda-speaking Congolese in Congo. And of course, the other fact is when they have fought M23 and have not defeated them, then it must be somebody else. So for them, the Congolese, the problem is somebody else. It's coming from somewhere else. It's not until they learn to take their problem as their problem and find a solution, then we shall stay in this kind of mess that we find ourselves in. But who needs the mess? And why would Rwanda anyway need to be involved in the Congo? And when we were building peace and security between the two countries from the beginning, how things changed all of a sudden, I think the Congolese have a lot to explain themselves, not me, not Rwanda.
Your Excellency, maybe before we move on, just to follow up on what you said, yes, the Congolese believe what they believe, and Rwanda has shared its stand. I know that you were recently in Nairobi joining your counterparts for a meeting that was called by the EAC chairman, President Uhuru Kenyatta. Do you think that the outcomes of that meeting could perhaps contribute to the relationship amends between Rwanda and DRC?
But things keep changing even after the meetings. Even when what we have agreed in the meetings, when we are out of the meetings, things start changing. We have had 3 meetings, 2 of which I attended, 1 I wasn't able to attend. 3 meetings in Nairobi. But the second one, which I did not attend, but in which I was represented by our foreign minister, I think I had reached a good way of dealing with the problem. And that was ceasefire. Those forces stop fighting. Second, a political process continues in Nairobi. Then once and then fight and make sure that the problem of FDLR is addressed. Those 3 points mainly. But in fact, we had discussed a bit of that in the first meeting, then affirmed it in the second meeting. But between the first and the second, what we had agreed in the meeting turned out to be different, because then the DRC government started saying, no, they are not going to talk to M23 because these are terrorists. So all of a sudden, terrorists were born, and as an excuse to not continue the political process. So terrorists, if they are terrorists, why would you fight terrorists, as you call them, and at the same time go looking for an ethnic group that is related to these terrorists in the courts? How can you brand an ethnic group a terrorist group? Sounds crazy. You can't do that. So, but that explains itself. So now in the third meeting, it's the same thing. It is, this time, have a force, East African force, which would go to Congo to ensure that the ceasefire that we are talking about actually holds and allows political processes to take place. The political processes are very important. Actually, for me, and I guess for everyone else, they come first. This is why I was saying, you just don't keep fighting and expect to find a solution for political problems, for political crises, for governance problems or other problems. No, you reach a point where you now start putting all the weight on the political processes and stop fighting. So the third meeting we had in Nairobi was about having a force, which you asked me earlier that we are not going to be part of. That is Rwanda, and which I said I have no problem with. But I can see maybe the president of Congo talks about it as if it is a victory. No, but the victory will come when you have solved the crisis or these political problems. Not just because you could not allow Rwanda, but Rwanda is not asking for it, is not complaining about it. But there's a big catch here. If you don't address security concerns of Rwanda, you have a problem on your hands.